Welcome to the channel Mirelle Tales. Before we start, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. Now, let's get into today's story.
My husband and his mother left me at home to care for my nonverbal brother-in-law while they went on a luxurious cruise. But the moment the front door clicked shut, my brother-in-law suddenly spoke in a crystal-clear voice. "Sarah, don't eat the pudding your mother-in-law made. It's poisoned." My heart felt like it had been struck by lightning. I had been living in the middle of a deadly play. The sound of suitcase wheels rolling across the tile floor echoed through the living room. That morning, our usually quiet house was a flurry of activity. I was rushing around, making sure my husband, Ethan, and my mother-in-law, Eleanor Cole, had everything they needed for their trip. From changes of clothes and prescription medications to Eleanor's extravagant sunglasses, I had meticulously packed everything. I wiped the sweat from my brow with the back of my hand. In truth, my heart ached as if it had been sliced by a sharp blade. They were leaving for a week-long vacation, not just any vacation, but a lavish cruise through the Caribbean, the kind of trip I could only imagine in my dreams. "Sarah, where is my sunscreen? Stop dawdling. The Uber will be here any minute," Eleanor's sharp voice barked from the master bedroom. Startled, I quickly grabbed the bottle of sunscreen from her vanity. "Right here, Eleanor. I have it ready for you," I replied, rushing to hand it to her. She snatched it from my hand without a word of thanks. Her face was caked with heavy makeup, and her loud, floral print dress was particularly garish. She looked ecstatic, a stark contrast to my own appearance in faded loungewear. Ethan emerged from the room, adjusting the collar of his Hawaiian shirt. He looked handsome and refreshed, smelling of the expensive cologne I had bought him last month with money I'd saved from our grocery budget. He glanced at me before his eyes shifted to the large suitcases, a look of annoyance flashing across his face. "Honey," I began softly, mustering my courage, "are you sure I can't come? Is there really no way to get another ticket?" Ethan let out a long sigh, as if my question was a heavy burden. He walked over and placed his hands on my shoulders, but the touch felt cold and empty. "Sarah, how many times do I have to explain this?" he said, forcing a gentle tone that couldn't quite mask his irritation. "The cruise tickets are incredibly expensive. My year-end bonus was only enough for 2. Besides, if you come, who will look after the house? Who will take care of Leo?" My gaze shifted to the corner of the living room, where a young man sat in a wooden wheelchair. It was Ethan's younger brother, Leo. His head was bowed, his eyes staring blankly at the floor. 10 years ago, a tragic accident had befallen the family, and ever since, Leo had been considered nonverbal and mentally handicapped. Since I married Ethan 3 years ago, my primary duty, aside from being a wife, had been to care for Leo, bathing him, feeding him, and even cleaning up after his bodily functions. "But honey, we could put Leo in a specialized care facility for a little while, or hire a home care nurse," I tried to negotiate, knowing it was futile. "What did you just say, Sarah?" Eleanor interjected, her eyes flaring. "You dare suggest we abandon my son in a nursing home? What kind of wife are you? You should be grateful you have a roof over your head and food to eat. Is it so much to ask you to look after your brother-in-law?" Her words stabbed me like daggers. It was always like this. Before my marriage, I had a promising career. But Ethan had asked me to quit, to focus on managing the household and caring for his mother. Now, my sacrifices were being dismissed as me simply being a freeloader. "That's not what I meant, Eleanor. It's just, I want to go on vacation with Ethan sometimes." My voice trailed off, my courage shrinking under her sharp gaze. All right, let's not fight," Ethan mediated, though it was clear he was on his mother's side. "It's bad luck to argue before a trip. Sarah, you stay home. Besides, Leo needs someone he knows. He'd be uncomfortable with a stranger." I could only nod, swallowing the bitter pill of disappointment. It settled deep in my stomach, a silent ache. A car horn honked from outside. Their ride had arrived. Ethan and Eleanor quickly grabbed their suitcases. I carried my mother-in-law's purse to the front door for her. Before getting into the car, Eleanor suddenly stopped. She turned and looked at me. Strangely, her gaze wasn't cynical this time. A smile played on her lips, a very sweet smile, but for some reason, it sent a shiver down my spine. It wasn't a genuine smile, but the smile of someone hiding a plan. "Oh, Sarah, I almost forgot," Eleanor said in a syrupy sweet voice, a complete departure from her scolding tone just minutes before. "I made a special raspberry pudding for you. It's in the fridge." I was stunned. Pudding? Eleanor had made food for me? In all my years here, she had loathed entering the kitchen for my sake. Usually, I was the one waiting on her like a queen. "Pudding?" I asked, bewildered. "Yes, pudding," Ethan chimed in, also beaming. "Mom woke up at dawn to make it. It's an old family recipe. She said she put in some precious herbal supplements to warm your body and help you conceive. We've wanted a baby for a long time, haven't we? I guess this is her way of trying to help." Eleanor nodded enthusiastically, her hand gripping my arm so tightly it hurt. "You hear me? You have to eat that pudding. Finish it all tonight. Don't let any go to waste. The ingredients were very expensive. Think of it as a token of my affection before I leave." "Yes, Eleanor." "Thank you so much," I replied, feeling a pang of guilt for the negative thoughts I'd just had about her. Maybe she really did want to improve our relationship. Maybe she was just eager for a grandchild. "You promise?" "I'll be checking the trash when I get back," Eleanor said in a mock-threatening tone, trying to make it sound like an awkward joke. "I promise, Eleanor. I'll eat it after I finish my chores," I said. They got into the car. Ethan gave a brief wave through the window, and the car drove off, leaving a faint cloud of dust on the suburban street. I stood at the doorway until the car disappeared around the corner. The large house fell silent again. Now, it was just me and Leo. Trying to compose myself, I took a deep breath. At least I would have a week of peace without Eleanor's nagging, and there was a special pudding waiting for me. Maybe this was a good start to mending my relationship with my mother-in-law. I closed and locked the front door, then turned back inside. My steps were heavy as I walked toward the living room. Leo was still in the same position, sitting quietly in his wheelchair, facing the turned-off television. "Leo, your brother and mother have left," I said softly, stroking his slightly long hair, though I knew he wouldn't respond. He remained motionless, his gaze still empty. "I'm feeling a bit hungry. I'll have some of that pudding first and make lunch later." I walked to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. On the middle shelf sat a large glass bowl filled with a deep red pudding. The color of the raspberry pudding was beautiful, a vibrant, blood red, with a firm, appetizing texture. I lifted the bowl. It was cold. Taped to the bottom was a small note in Eleanor's neat handwriting. "For my grandchild, eat every last bite." Reading the message warmed my heart. Perhaps behind her harsh exterior, she really did care about my future. I carried the bowl to the dining table, grabbed a large spoon, and sat alone in the spacious dining room. The wall clock read 10 in the morning. The house was so quiet. The only sound was the ticking of the clock, as if it were counting the moments of my loneliness. I looked at the pudding. It had the sweet scent of raspberries and milk, mixed with a faint, unidentifiable medicinal aroma. It must be the fertility herbs my mother-in-law mentioned. I was hungry. I had skipped breakfast while packing for them since dawn. This cold pudding seemed like it would be a refreshing treat for my dry throat. "Here goes," I murmured to myself. I slowly stirred the pudding with my spoon, feeling its smooth texture. The deep red color seemed to beckon me, tempting me to taste it. I scooped up the first spoonful. The firm, red mass jiggled on the end of the spoon. I opened my mouth, about to take the first bite. Suddenly, a jarring, scraping sound pierced the silence. The sound of a wheelchair. Startled, I looked toward the living room. My heart pounded in my chest. Leo. Leo never moved his wheelchair on his own. He always waited for someone to push him. But the sight before my eyes left me horrified. Leo wasn't sitting in his wheelchair. He was standing. Yes, Leo, my brother-in-law, whom I had known to be paralyzed and silent for the past 3 years, was now standing tall in the middle of the room. His 2 feet were planted firmly on the floor. His usually expressionless face was now fixed on me with a sharp, urgent gaze. A cold sweat began to run down my back. Was I so tired that I was hallucinating? "Leo?" My voice trembled as I called his name hesitantly. He didn't answer my call, but he moved. He walked quickly. No, He was half running toward me. His gait was steady, not at all like someone whose muscles had atrophied from years of paralysis. Before I could process what was happening, Leo was beside the dining table. His hand, which I had always thought was weak, suddenly shot out and grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't." That single word, that one word from his mouth. Leo slapped the spoon from my hand. It flew through the air and clattered onto the tile floor. The glob of red pudding splattered, scattering like fresh drops of blood. I jumped up from my chair, stumbling back a few steps until my back hit the wall. I was gasping for air. I stared at Leo, my eyes wide with a mixture of terror and disbelief. My mind couldn't comprehend the situation. Leo stood. Leo moved aggressively, and most unbelievably of all, Leo spoke. Leo?" My tongue felt thick. You can talk? You can walk?" Leo didn't answer right away. He stared at the bowl of pudding on the table, then looked back at me. His breathing was also heavy, as if he had just unleashed years of pent-up courage. The face that had always looked like that of a dazed child now belonged to a grown man, filled with anger and concern. "Throw that pudding away, Sarah," Leo said. His voice was rough and heavy, like a machine that hadn't been used in a long time, but his pronunciation was clear, perfectly clear. I was still frozen, clutching my racing heart. "What are you talking about? Why? Why have you been pretending to be nonverbal all this time? Why did you pretend to be paralyzed?" Leo ignored my questions. He pointed a trembling finger at the pudding bowl. "Listen to me, Sarah. Don't eat anything Mom gave you before she left. That's not medicine to help you get pregnant." "Then what is it?" I asked, my eyes starting to fill with tears of fear and confusion. Leo looked directly into my eyes. His gaze made my blood run cold. "It's poison," he said icily. In that moment, it felt like the world stopped. "Poison? What are you talking about, Leo? Your mother made it herself. She said she cared about me, that she wanted me to get pregnant soon." "The only thing Mother loves is money, Sarah," Leo suddenly shouted, his emotions erupting. He gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned white. "Why do you think I pretended to be crazy? Why do you think I pretended to be a mute for 5 years? If I could talk, if I seemed normal, those two would have killed me long ago." My legs gave out. I collapsed back into the chair. A series of facts hit me with merciless force. Leo, the brother-in-law I had cared for like a child, had been hiding this enormous secret. And he had just saved my life. But why? Why would they want to poison me? I'm Ethan's wife. I'm their daughter-in-law. Leo pulled a chair over and sat in front of me. He looked at me with deep compassion. "Because you're no longer useful to their business plan," Leo explained in a calm but chilling voice. "I heard them talking in the living room last night when you were asleep. Ethan has huge gambling debts, and his pregnant mistress is pressuring him to marry her." "Mistress," I mumbled blankly. My heart shattered into a million pieces. Ethan was cheating on me. "Her name is Jessica Vance," Leo continued. "She's the daughter of a wealthy businessman. Ethan needs your parents' inheritance, the land upstate, and the deed to this house, which is still in your name, to pay off his debts and fund his marriage to Jessica. He's afraid that if he divorces you, you'll sue for a division of assets. So the only way," Leo gestured toward the now horrifying red pudding, "was to make you die slowly, as if from a natural illness or a miscarriage. That pudding is laced with a high dose of medication and a tasteless, odorless, liquid rat poison. If you had eaten that, your internal organs would have been damaged within hours, causing severe hemorrhaging. The doctors would have assumed it was a gastrointestinal issue or a uterine complication." I covered my mouth with my hand, fighting back a wave of nausea. Eleanor's sweet face and Ethan's loving smile from this morning flashed through my mind. It was all an act, a hideous play designed to end my life. "Their trip is just to create an alibi," Leo added. "When you're found dead later, they'll be overseas, clean, no one would suspect them." Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. The pain of betrayal was more potent than any poison. The husband I loved and served with all my heart had plotted my murder for another woman and for money. The mother-in-law I had thought of as a replacement for my own mother was a devil with an angel's face. Leo reached out and took my cold hand. His touch was warm and real. "Wipe your tears, Sarah," Leo said firmly. His vacant expression was completely gone, replaced by the face of a protector. We don't have much time. Are you going to sit here and die helplessly? Or are you going to get revenge? I looked up and met Leo's eyes. In them, I saw the same fire of rage that was beginning to burn in my own heart. The sorrow slowly evaporated, replaced by a searing desire for vengeance. I wiped my tears away fiercely. "Help me," I said, my voice hoarse but determined. "Tell me how to bring them down." A faint smile touched Leo's lips. "First, we need evidence. We need to take that pudding and get it to a lab." I was still staring at Leo in disbelief. It felt like a nightmare, but the pain in my chest from Ethan's betrayal was all too real. Leo, whom I had always considered helpless, was now laying out a plan before me like a general commanding a war. "Before we go to the lab, you need to know everything," Leo said, pulling his chair closer. He poured me a glass of water. His movements were so natural, without a trace of the awkward motor skills he had displayed for so long. "Why did you have to pretend to be nonverbal and paralyzed, Leo? Wasn't that torture?" I asked softly after taking a sip of water. Leo let out a long sigh. His gaze drifted to the past. 5 years ago, my father died suddenly. Everyone said it was a heart attack. But the night before he died, I saw Mother mixing something into his coffee. I was young then and didn't know what it was. But after Dad died, she immediately seized all the company assets and kicked out all of Dad's relatives. I gasped. "Are you saying your mother murdered your father?" I had no proof back then, but she knew that I saw her making that coffee. She started getting paranoid. A few weeks after the funeral, I had a car accident. The brakes failed. I survived, but my legs were badly injured. Leo pointed to his own legs, now firmly on the ground. The doctor said I could make a full recovery with physical therapy, but Mother told everyone my nerves were severed and that I would be paralyzed for life. She even bribed the doctor to forge my medical records. "Oh my God!" I moaned in horror. "That's not all, Sarah. She started giving me high doses of tranquilizers every day. The drugs made me groggy, made it hard to speak, hard to think. I realized she was trying to turn me into a living vegetable, so I couldn't claim my inheritance or expose her secrets. So, I decided to stop fighting. I pretended to swallow the pills but secretly threw them away. I pretended to be a mute, completely paralyzed, so she would feel safe and stop trying to kill me. I looked at my brother-in-law with a mixture of awe and sorrow. What a heavy burden he had been carrying all alone, living under the same roof as a murderer, forced to feign helplessness just to survive. "I'm so sorry, Leo," I said, taking his hand. "I had no idea. I thought you were really sick." "It's not your fault. You were the only person in this hellish house who genuinely cared for me." Leo's eyes softened. "That's why I couldn't stand by when I knew it was your turn." Leo stood up and walked over to a decorative cabinet in the living room. He pushed aside a large ceramic doll and fumbled with the underside of the shelf. Click. A secret panel opened. My jaw dropped. Even though I cleaned this house every day, I never knew there was a hidden compartment there. From the small space, Leo pulled out a small notebook and an old digital recorder. "I documented everything," he said, placing them on the table. "Dates, times, what they talked about. All of Mother's and Ethan's crimes are in here. Company tax evasion, bribing public officials, and the plan to get rid of you." With trembling hands, I opened the notebook. Leo's handwriting was neat and detailed. My eyes stopped on the last page. Dated last night, May 20th, 11 p.m., living room. "Ethan, Jessica can't wait any longer. She's threatening to go to the police if I don't marry her right away. She's starting to show. Eleanor, calm down. Sarah is an idiot. She'll believe anything we say as long as we pretend to love her. Give her that special pudding tomorrow. The liquid rat poison I bought on the black market is undetectable when mixed with raspberries. Tell her it's an herbal remedy. Ethan, but won't the police be suspicious if she dies suddenly? Eleanor, we'll be on the cruise. A perfect alibi. Sarah has a history of stomach problems, so we'll just say her gastritis got worse and she died from a gastric hemorrhage. A clean solution. Sarah's inheritance will legally go to you, her husband. You can pay off your debts and marry Jessica." Reading the transcript, I felt another wave of nausea. This time, it wasn't from fear, but from disgust. Disgust for the man I had loved, and disgust for myself for having been so blind. "They're monsters," I snarled. The tears had already dried. Now, only the fire of revenge burned in my chest. "Now you believe me?" Leo asked. I nodded firmly. "What do we do now?" "We need irrefutable physical evidence. My notebook is just supplementary. We need to prove medically that the pudding is toxic," Leo said, pointing to the red bowl. "Do you have any friends who work in a lab or a hospital?" I thought for a moment. "Chloe, my friend from high school. She's a chemical analyst at a private lab downtown." "Good. Contact her right now. But don't use your phone. Ethan might have bugged it. Use mine." Leo pulled an old cell phone from the pocket of his loose-fitting pants, a phone I never knew he had. An hour later, wearing a large hoodie and sunglasses to hide our identities, Leo and I arrived at the lab where Chloe worked. Luckily, she was on duty. Her face turned pale as I explained everything, and it went even whiter when Leo began to speak normally. "Are you serious?" Chloe asked, half in disbelief, as she took the pudding sample I had brought in a glass jar. "Please check it as soon as you can, Chloe. It's a matter of life and death," I pleaded. "Wait here. I'll use a rapid basic toxicology screening kit first. A detailed component analysis will take about a day, but the rapid test can detect common poisons within 30 minutes. Those 30 minutes felt like 30 years. Leo and I sat in the cold waiting room. He held my hand the whole time, giving me strength. Finally, the lab door opened. Chloe emerged, her face tense. She was holding a single printout. "Sarah." Chloe's voice trembled. She looked at me with horror-filled eyes. "You pine! You didn't eat any of this, did you? Not even a little?" I shook my head. "No, I didn't. Why, Chloe?" "This is insane," Chloe said, pointing to the numbers on the paper. "This pudding contains a lethal dose of arsenic trioxide, mixed with a high dose of an anticoagulant, a blood thinner. If you had eaten this, the arsenic would have corroded your stomach lining, and the blood thinner would have caused massive, unstoppable internal bleeding. You would have died in excruciating pain within hours." I muffled a scream with my hand. My whole body was shaking violently. Arsenic, a classic poison favored by murderers, and a blood thinner. Now I understood why they had asked about my history of stomach problems. They wanted my death to look like a common gastric hemorrhage. How evil, how calculated all of it was. "They really tried to kill me," I whispered. Fresh tears flowed, but this time they were tears of gratitude. God had protected me through Leo. "Keep this result, Chloe. Create an official report that we can use as legal evidence," Leo said firmly. "And secure the remaining pudding sample as evidence." Chloe nodded quickly. "Of course, I'll store it in the hazardous materials sample vault. You two need to be extremely careful. This is attempted, premeditated murder." After thanking Chloe, we returned to my car, an old car that was my father's, which I rarely used because Ethan had always forbidden me from driving. "Where to now?" I asked, starting the engine. My hands on the steering wheel were still trembling. "Home. We need to find those insurance papers," Leo said. "In my notebook, I have an entry where I overheard Ethan mentioning a new life insurance policy he took out in your name without your knowledge." As soon as we got home, we headed for Ethan's study. That room was always locked, a forbidden space for me, but a locked door was no problem for Leo. He pulled out a small set of wires from his pocket, and within seconds, with a click, the door was open. During his time feigning his condition, Leo had secretly learned many things through the internet. We searched the room, desk drawers, bookshelves, everything. "Found it!" Leo exclaimed from behind a large painting on the wall. There was a wall safe. For the password, Leo entered the birthday of Ethan's mistress, Jessica Vance. The safe opened. Inside were stacks of cash, my old gold jewelry that I thought had been lost in a burglary. It turned out Ethan had stolen it, and a thick blue folder. I opened the folder. The title read, "Premium Life Insurance Policy." The insured's name was listed as Sarah Miller. The sole beneficiary was Ethan Cole. The death benefit was $5 million, with an additional clause stating the payout would be doubled in the case of death by accident or acute illness. The policy had been created just a month ago, and in the signature line for the insured was my name, a very convincing forgery. But I knew I had never signed such a document. $5 million, I gasped. So that's what my life was worth to my husband. Enough money to pay off his gambling debts and live lavishly with his new wife, Leo added cynically. He photographed all the documents with his phone. This is a perfect motive. The police will love this. Just then, my phone vibrated in my pocket. The screen lit up with the name, My Loving Husband. My heart skipped a beat. Answer it, Sarah, Leo whispered, his face serious. It's time to start our act. You have to play along. Make them believe their plan is working. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my frantically beating heart. I pressed the green call button and turned on the speakerphone. Hello, Ethan, I said, making my voice sound slightly hoarse and weak. From the other end of the line, I could hear the sound of waves and relaxing music. Then came Ethan's cheerful voice, overly cheerful. Hello, Sarah. How are things at home? I just got to the port. The signal is a bit weak. Is everything okay? I glanced at Leo. He gave me a thumbs up, signaling me to continue. Yes, Ethan, I'm okay, I replied softly. It's just, I haven't been feeling well since a little while ago. There was a moment of silence on the other end. Then Ethan's voice became more eager, though he tried to feign concern. Not feeling well? Why? Have you eaten? Oh, right. Did you eat the pudding Mom made? It would be a waste if it melted. You should eat it while it's fresh. The question about the pudding came too quickly. He didn't ask if I had eaten a meal. He went straight for the poison. I closed my eyes, imagining Ethan's cunning smile on the other end of the line. Yes, Ethan, I just finished the whole bowl, I lied. It was delicious, but I don't know why my stomach is cramping so badly now. It hurts. I added a painful-sounding groan at the end of my sentence. Great! I mean, that's probably just the healing crisis. Honey, Ethan's voice was slightly flustered, but mixed with a sigh of relief. Mom said that would happen. It's the process of cleansing your uterus. Just get some rest. Take a nap. Don't walk around. You'll get tired. In the background, I could faintly hear Eleanor's voice. It was quiet, but to my now hypersensitive ears, it was clear enough. How did it go, Ethan? Did she eat it? Yes. It'll be over soon. We can have a celebratory toast tonight. My blood boiled. Great. It'll be over soon. It hurts so much, I groaned again. This time, tears of rage genuinely flowed, making my performance even more convincing. I think I should call a doctor. No! Ethan shouted in a panic. I mean, honey, don't be a baby. It's just a reaction to the herbs. If you go to the hospital, they'll just give you chemical drugs, and that will ruin the pudding's effect. Just sleep, okay? I have to go check in. I'll call you back later when I have a better signal. Bye, honey. The call was disconnected unilaterally. I threw the phone onto the sofa. My entire body trembled with soaring rage. He told me not to go to the hospital, I said in a cold voice. He wants me to lie here and die alone in agony. Leo picked up my phone and pressed the stop button on the recording app he had turned on before I answered the call. We got them, Leo said with a wry smile. The voice recording, the lab results, the forged insurance policy, and my notebook. This evidence is more than enough to make them rot in prison for the rest of their lives. Leo looked at me sharply. Now it's time for the next step, Sarah. Let's make them come back sooner. It's time to spring the trap. The dial tone left an eerie silence in Ethan's study. I was still clutching my phone with a trembling hand, not from fear anymore, but from uncontrollable rage. The sound of Eleanor's small laugh and Ethan's voice, relieved at the thought of my dying, kept replaying in my ears, turning the last embers of my love for him to ash. Sarah, save that recording. Leo's command broke the silence. Upload it to the cloud, send a copy to my email, and put one on a flash drive. He was already back in high alert mode, his eyes scanning the room to make sure we left no trace. With still stiff fingers, I secured the digital evidence. Their voices were the first nail in the coffin of their freedom. We need to hurry, Leo said, gesturing to the still open wall safe. Ethan and his mother might be gloating on that cruise ship, but they were sloppy. They left the heart of their operation right here. I approached the safe again. Inside, besides the cash and the forged insurance policy, were several folders of property deeds. I took them out one by one. The deed to this house, the deed to my parents' inherited land upstate, and several bank deposit certificates, all part of my deceased parents' estate that I had brought into the marriage. Ethan had always told me these documents were lost during our move 2 years ago. It turned out he had stolen them, hiding them here, waiting for the right time to transfer ownership. "Son of a bitch," I muttered under my breath, a curse I had never uttered in my life. "Take it all, Sarah. Don't leave a single page," Leo instructed. He himself was busy retrieving a red velvet jewelry box from a corner of the safe. When he opened it, it revealed my mother's heirloom diamond and gold set, which Ethan had claimed was stolen in a burglary a year ago. "This is yours." He was probably going to sell it or give it to that woman. We emptied the safe's contents. We even took the stacks of cash, which were likely funds from Ethan's corrupt dealings or gambling wins, as evidence. "We need to get this out of the house. Right now," I said firmly. The house no longer felt safe. Every corner felt like the eyes of a spy watching us. "To the bank," Leo responded. "You still have that personal safe deposit box you used to use, right?" I nodded. Before my marriage, I was an independent career woman. I had a private safe deposit box at a large commercial bank, and the key was always hidden inside an old teddy bear that Ethan considered junk, a place he would never know. We hurried out. Before leaving, Leo cleverly repositioned the painting covering the safe and used his skilled lockpicking to relock Ethan's study door, making it seem as if no one had ever entered. The drive to the bank was tense. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, paranoid that someone was following us, even though Ethan and his mother were hundreds of miles away at sea. Leo sat beside me, quiet but vigilant. At the bank, the customer service representative gave Leo a brief, curious look. They knew me, but they had never seen Leo in a normal state. "Mrs. Cole, how can I help you?" "And this is?" the employee asked politely, but searchingly. "This is my brother, Leo," I answered curtly, without further explanation. "We need to access my safe deposit box, and I'd like to register him as a co-agent for access to this box." Leo smiled politely and greeted the employee in a clear voice. "Hello. It's a pleasure to meet you." The employee's eyes widened for a moment. She had probably heard the neighborhood rumors about me caring for a non-verbal, disabled brother-in-law, but she was professional and processed our request immediately. Inside the cold, steel-walled vault, I placed all the deeds, the jewelry, and the cash, the evidence of their crimes, into my long metal box. The moment that box was locked again, and the steel drawer slid back into its slot, I felt a 1,000-ton weight lift from my shoulders. "My parents' legacy is safe now," I whispered, stroking the cold steel door. "Ethan will not get a single cent." "It's not just about the assets, Sarah," Leo reminded me. "Your life is now in our hands. The next step is to make sure they can never hurt you again." We left the bank with lighter hearts, but our mission was far from over. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the city streets. "We need a lawyer, Sarah," Leo said as we got back into the car. "A lawyer who won't be bought by Ethan's money." Mr. Davis? I thought of him instantly. He was my late father's best friend, an honest and resolute senior lawyer. Ethan despised him and had forbidden me from contacting him after our marriage. Now I knew why. Ethan was afraid Mr. Davis's sharp intuition would see through his ugly facade. "Call him. Tell him it's an emergency," Leo said. I picked up Leo's phone. We had agreed not to make any external calls from my phone to avoid being traced, and I found the number for Mr. Davis's law firm, which I still remembered by heart. The call connected. Yes, Davis and Associates Law Firm. It was the secretary's voice. "Hello, may I speak with Mr. David Davis?" "It's Sarah. Sarah Miller, the late Mr. Miller's daughter." After a moment of silence, a deep, dignified voice I had missed dearly came on the line. "Sarah, it's been so long. How are you? Does your husband know you're calling? He wouldn't be happy." Hearing that fatherly voice, I felt tears welling up. "Mr. Davis, I need your help. I'm in danger. Ethan and his mother tried to kill me." I heard a chair creak on the other end of the line, a sign that Mr. Davis had shot up in surprise. "What? Where are you now? Are you safe?" "I'm safe. I'm with Leo. And we have evidence, Mr. Davis." The poison, a recording, forged documents. I need your help to put them in jail. Come to my office right now. I'll contact a friend of mine in the police department. Don't stop anywhere. Come straight here. I hung up and looked at Leo. His nod gave me courage. My father's old car cut through the traffic, taking us to the stage for our new counterattack. I was no longer the submissive, naive wife. The old Sarah had died today with that poisoned pudding. What remained was a woman ready to demand justice. The conference room at Mr. Davis's office was cool from the central air conditioning, but the atmosphere inside was hot with tension. Spread across the long mahogany table was all the evidence we had gathered. The jar with the remaining red pudding, the preliminary lab results from Chloe, Leo's small notebook, the voice recording on the phone, and photos of the forged insurance documents. Mr. Davis sat at the head of the table, his aged face flushed with suppressed anger. Beside him sat a well-built police officer with detective's insignia on his shoulder. He was Detective Evans, a close acquaintance of Mr. Davis, from the Major Crimes Division. They had just finished listening to the recording of the phone call I had with Ethan. Even after the recording stopped, the sound of Eleanor's cruel chuckle seemed to linger in the room. "Shameless bastards," Mr. Davis groaned, his fist clenching on the table. "I suspected that Ethan Cole was no good from the beginning of your marriage, but I never imagined he could be this evil. And that mother of his, what kind of woman tries to poison her own daughter-in-law for money?" Detective Evans looked back and forth between me and Leo. His gaze was sharp but filled with sympathy. "Miss Miller, this evidence is very strong. This is attempted murder with a financial motive, compounded by insurance fraud and forgery. If the poison is proven to have been a lethal dose, they could be looking at life in prison or even the death penalty in this state." The detective then turned to Leo. "And Mr. Cole, your testimony will be the key. Forgive me, but according to our records, you are nonverbal and have a mental disability." "That was my method of survival, Detective," Leo cut in calmly. His heavy, intelligent voice slightly startled Detective Evans, even though Mr. Davis had briefed him beforehand. "Indeed," the officer replied. "I am of sound mind and ready to undergo a psychological evaluation to prove the validity of my testimony. For years, I have been a direct witness to their conspiracies." Mr. Davis patted Leo's shoulder proudly. "You're a smart kid. Your father would have been proud to have a strong daughter-in-law like Sarah and a clever son like you." "So what's our plan now, Detective?" I asked. "I wanted to see them pay as soon as possible. They're still at sea. Do we arrest them when they dock next week?" Detective Evans shook his head. "That's too long, Miss Miller. There's a risk they might suspect their plan has failed and destroy other evidence or try to flee. And if they can't get in touch with you after that last call, they'll become suspicious. We need to lure them back into our trap right now." "Lure them?" I asked. "We give them the scenario they're hoping for," Leo said suddenly, his eyes shining with intelligence. "They're waiting for news of your death. Let's give it to them." Mr. Davis frowned. "What do you mean?" Leo leaned forward. "Don't give them the news of her death right away. They'd be happy, but they would take their time. Give them news that she's in critical condition. News that a neighbor found her unconscious, and she's now in the ICU fighting for her life. The insurance policy probably has a clause that the claim must be made immediately, and that the husband, Ethan Cole, must be present to sign off on medical decisions or the death certificate." Detective Evans caught on to Leo's line of thinking. "If they hear that Miss Miller is in critical condition, they'll panic, torn between the joy of the impending payout and the fear that she might wake up and testify. They'll rush back to make sure she's silenced for good and to secure the assets before any other family members can get involved." "Who makes the call?" I asked. "Not you. You're supposed to be in a coma," Leo said. He looked at Mr. Davis. "Mr. Davis, do you have a female staff member with an urgent and convincing voice? We can have her call Ethan, pretending to be a hospital nurse or the neighbor who found you." Mr. Davis smiled slyly. "My secretary is an excellent actress. I'll get her ready right now." 10 minutes later, the scenario was in motion. The secretary, following Detective Evans's instructions to add authenticity, used our home phone number, which had been technologically rerouted, to call Ethan. The speakerphone was on. Everyone in the conference room held their breath. "Hello? Who is this? I'm on vacation. Don't bother me. Ethan's annoyed voice came through, muffled by the sound of sea wind. Hello, Mr. Ethan Cole? Sir, this is your next-door neighbor. The secretary's voice sounded extremely frantic. She gasped for air. Sir, something terrible has happened. It's your wife, Sarah. There was a moment of silence from the other end. The wind noise seemed to recede, a sign that Ethan was moving to a quieter place. What happened to Sarah? Speak clearly. His tone had changed, laced with a feigned urgency. I heard glass breaking earlier, so I went to check, and I found Mrs. Cole collapsed on the kitchen floor, sir. She was foaming at the mouth, and there was red vomit everywhere. We rushed her to Central Hospital, and the doctor says her condition is extremely critical. The poison has spread. The bleeding is too severe. What? Eleanor's sharp voice could be heard, as if she was right next to Ethan's phone. Is she still alive? The question would have been bizarre for a normal person, but it was perfectly logical for a murderer disappointed that their victim wasn't dead yet. The secretary, having been prepped, answered cleverly. She's hanging on by a thread, ma'am. The doctor needs family consent for emergency surgery. Otherwise, he says she might not make it through the night. You two need to come back immediately. The police have also started asking questions about why there was so much blood. The word police was the decisive trigger. We'll be right back, Ethan shouted in a panic. Don't let that woman talk. Don't let them operate on her without my permission. I'm her legal husband. I have the final say. Stall the police. Tell them it's just a common case of gastritis. We'll find a helicopter or a speedboat to get to the mainland right now. The call ended. Detective Evans smiled with satisfaction. Hook, line, and sinker. They're terrified that you'll wake up and give a statement to the police there. They'll be back as fast as lightning to either silence you or prevent the surgery that could save your life. How long will it take? Mr. Davis asked. Assuming their location is somewhere in the Caribbean and they charter a private jet like people in a panic would, they could be home by tomorrow afternoon or the morning after, Detective Evans estimated. Good, I said coldly, standing up and straightening my clothes. That gives me time to prepare a fitting welcome at home. Miss Miller, it would be better if you weren't at the house. Let my team handle the raid, Detective Evans suggested. No, Detective. I refused, my voice gentle but firm. I want to see their faces when they find out I'm still alive. I want to see my mother-in-law's face when she realizes her pudding of love failed to kill me.